Dzień dobry, assalamu alaikum, ciao, konnichiwa, good morning, bonjour, hola. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Ken at 10 and it's Friday, the best day of the week. Yes, love a Friday, don't you? Love it for so many different reasons. We'll come on to that in a little while. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Just finished our weekly podcast, the Property Buyer and Sellers podcast. If you're looking it up, look on Spotify or iTunes. I'll put the link below. And with Bob Harris, and Bob is a great guy. He is a lecturer and is into green tech, very much an eco warrior. And over 20 years ago, he's one of the first people I ever knew who installed ground and air source heat pumps and many other energy saving efficiencies to build construction in Norbury, which we've helped him look after ever since. He's a lovely guy, but his findings may surprise you. They certainly did surprise us. And the conversation is very frank and open. So if you get the chance, do look at it on there. It will also be on Facebook and YouTube if you want to take a look at the video. But if you want the podcast and you're just driving about, look on iTunes or Spotify and look up Ken Humes podcast or the Property Buyer and Sellers podcast. So good morning and welcome to Ken at 10. We are James Alexander Estate Agents. We broadcast daily about all things property. We're based in Southwest London, Southwest 16, Norbury to be precise, with Streatham to the north and Croydon to the south. The weather here in Norbury today it's a little bit damp actually. It's spitting, just a little bit of rain, not too much, not very windy. And so we're looking forward to our Fridays. We always do. Great day. Why? Because it's the day that we encourage everybody to go out and view. Busiest day of the week for viewings is always Saturday. So we're always looking to see who's viewing, who's out, who's hot, and what properties we can get them into, what will be relevant for them to go and look at, so we can make sure our vendors get the best possible price for their properties. If you're considering selling now or into next year, many people now are just seeing us to take advice for what they're going to do in the new year. And we're always delighted to see you about that. You know, this is not a business where everything happens overnight. Quite often we have conversations, sometimes going into years before the timing is right for people. In fact, I remember one particular instance this year where we've been speaking to a client for upwards of 5 years. And this year, for the first time, we said, look, it's the right time for you now. And they moved on. And actually, it was a very wise move for them. But there we are. So let's go into the property headlines for the day. The Independent is reporting that the number of mortgage arrears is in decline, which is good news and may surprise some. Shut that noise up for you. And they say the number of homeowners in mortgage arrears dropped in the third quarter of this year as coronavirus support measures helped support some people to pay down their existing debts. Some 74,210 homeowner mortgages were in arrears of 2.5% or more of the outstanding balance, according to UK Finance. That's a fall of 2,400 mortgages in arrears compared to the previous quarter, which is very good news. Within total, the number of homeowners in early arrears of between 2.5 and 5% of the outstanding balance was also down compared with the previous quarter. Barring an initial increase at the end of March 2020, early arrears figures have remained lower than the number seen before the pandemic started. That's a real surprise, isn't it? UK Finance said this. However, the number of home loans in significant arrears has increased slightly. Within the total, there were 27,980 homeowner mortgages in more significant arrears, representing 10% or more of the outstanding balance. And that's 70 more than the previous quarter. The OSB, which is a lender, has reported a strong increase in lending. It's up 8%, underlying loans for commercial mortgages and residential development finance compared with a year earlier. That's hardly surprising, is it? ONS rankings. This is the Office for National Statistics. They're talking all about energy efficiency. And do watch the podcast about energy efficiency. I think you'll be very surprised by Bob's findings. We certainly were. They're saying overall flats and maisonettes were the most energy efficient property type in both England and Wales, with a median score of 72, which is equivalent to band C. Detached dwellings scored the lowest. Well, this is obvious, isn't it? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know why. In a property, we have what we call heat loss walls, and these are a major factor within an EPC. So every external wall is a heat loss wall. So the wall that faces out to the air will be the one that is most exposed to the cold. So if you have a flat and on three sides it's enclosed by other flats and enveloped by perhaps a communal hallway, then of course you only have one wall that is exposed to the elements. And if that's particularly well insulated, then of course that's going to be far more insulated, whatever you do, than a detached house, even if it's well insulated. So there's no real surprise there. It's not rocket science, is it? That flats will be more energy efficient than houses for the majority. The PM is under pressure apparently to legislate on property use in crime. There's an article in the Times saying that he's facing calls from a cross-party group to introduce legislation to stop the use of UK property for economic crime, as a rise in ownership of offshore tax havens is said to have placed the country at the heart of the world's dirty money crisis. Well, this has been happening for years, of course. Some 47,000 properties were registered to individuals with addresses in Jersey, Guernsey, the Isle of Man and the British Virgin Islands. The MPs are also calling for reforms to the company's register after criticism that database is too easily abused by money launderers and fraudsters. Well, of course, these days it's much harder for criminals to get past solicitors and estate agents' anti-money laundering rules, because we are very much monitoring everybody that comes to us, either with a property to sell or buy, through sophisticated means, to make sure we monitor them on an ongoing basis to make sure nothing untoward appears to be happening. But no doubt, as we become more sophisticated with our methods trying to chase them, so they will become more sophisticated in their methods to try and elude us. But we are very much now the eyes and ears of the government and HMRC when it comes to being early detectors of the financial crimes, and it really has tightened up massively over the last couple of years or so. 2/3 of councils have prosecuted no rogue landlords. Well, this rogue landlord thing, I've said for a while now, there's this kind of soundbite that politicians seem to be using. We're fighting the rogue landlords. The vast majority of landlords are honest, law-abiding citizens that are just trying to supplement their own income and help their families get on in terms of financially maybe supporting their children, perhaps supporting their pension through a means that is linked to inflation, and therefore their money's not eroding away. The idea that landlords are all rogue is so ridiculous. And no, they haven't prosecuted many rogue landlords. Is it because there might not be as many as they expect? Anyway, the research by the NRLA, the National Residential Landlords Association, has found that 2/3 of councils have made no prosecutions over standards, with just 937 prosecutions across 283 local authorities. The government estimates that there are 10,500 rogue landlords currently operating. The NRLA has urged it to fund councils to address the problems. Well, I think it's in all our interest that these things are addressed, but I do wonder how many of these really exist. It'd be interesting to find out in time. Hopefully they'll put some more resources into it and we'll get some more meaningful statistics, because how do they estimate these? And if they found them, why aren't they doing something about it? I suppose that's the point, really, isn't it? Council housing policy will no longer exclude the homeless. This is good news. A Brent council housing policy, which meant homeless people were prevented from bidding for housing for the past 8 years, has been overturned following legal action from a local teenager who had spent years sofa surfing and sleeping rough. A spokesperson for the local authorities confirmed the proposed changes to the allocations process. We're going through the decision-making process and has asked anyone who may have been affected to contact the council. Well, that's interesting and good news, because homeless do appear to be in this trap of haven't got a home, can't get a home. And it'd be really good and meaningful if they were included in registers across the UK. So I'm all for that one. Apart from that, landlords, according to the Daily Mail, are heeding green renovations call, or are they thinking ahead to 2025? See our podcast. Research by Shawbrook Bank has found 70% of landlords undertook green refurbishment of properties last year, replacing boilers, windows and other work. Timothy Douglas, policy manager at Body Industry Property Mark, commented, "It's great to see landlords who can or are actively making steps to improve the efficiency of their properties. It's now well over 12 months since the EPC Band E rating applied to all tenancies in the UK, and so consequently letting agents are seeing an increase in the number of properties with EPC Band E and above." Well, again, hardly surprising, is it? Apart from that, 17 MPs are claiming rent from the taxpayer while letting out their own homes, and it just grows and grows, doesn't it? 17 MPs, 15 Conservatives and 2 Labour, have put their housing costs on expenses while earning more than $10,000 a year each from renting out their own properties. Really does need reform, this, doesn't it? It's absolutely crazy. I hope they do something about that, because it's, the sleaze is just incredible at the moment, isn't it, amongst politicians? And the worst thing about that is that it puts people off voting, and it's the one thing that we have that sets us apart from other countries. So I hope that you don't feel that way about our MPs, but it's hard not to, isn't it, with the corruption and sleaze that's going on at the moment. So apart from that, we're looking forward to a busy day. I hope you are too, and a great weekend. What have we got today? We've got some valuations coming up in Streatham, some in Southernport for inspections as well, which is a local block that's really nice, and looking forward to seeing that. So have a great weekend. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you're doing something lovely. Look after your family and friends. We'll be back same time on Monday with another edition. But until then, stay safe and have a fantastic weekend.